It's so good in so many different ways. It's my first film. I had never worked in this medium before, and then being able to, well, finish it and show it here, being able to be physically here and see it in a cinema with other people and discuss it, I hadn't expected this to happen, so I'm so very, very happy to be here. Yeah. The film is set in two very different places. One is a village in the southeastern side of Morocco, in the desert, in a village where I met a man that I became fascinated with a few years prior to filming. And the other location is a lab in Germany where they store mud cores. So they drill into the seafloor all over the world, and then they collect samples from the sea floor, and they are stored in the lab, and they are sliced open and analyzed. So yeah, two very opposing locations, and that's also the main idea behind the film, to bring these contradicting environments together. Well, the biggest difficulty, but maybe difficulty is not the right word, it's sort of a tragedy. So I met Yusuf through a work period I did in the desert village, and then I decided I wanted to go back and film him. So we did that, and then the plan was to shoot documentary style footage of the village and Yusuf and his life there, and then I would go back home, write more sort of narrative scenes, and then go back with an actress to film the rest of the film. But Yusuf died in a car accident midway through that period of writing. I only found out a few months later when I was getting in touch to go back again. And I actually stopped working on the film for a while because I didn't know how to, well, it took me a while to actually process the news, but also I didn't know how to work with his, the images I already had of him. So yeah, it changed the whole film. There was no, the German lab actually came after this. Yeah, it's actually an interesting question in relation to this film, because the film started during a trip to Odessa, the Ukraine, in 2013, because I was really interested in the Black Sea. And while I was doing research on the Black Sea and the history of Odessa, I read about this Scythian king who lived around that area about 800 before Christ. And he, I mean, it's a bit too long to tell his life story, but his character also brings together very contradictory elements. And as a result of the research, I made a sculpture out of polystyrene of the king, life size, so it was 2 meters, and it was always in my studio, and it was, I decided to spray paint the sculpture because it was this really ugly blue plasticky material, and I wanted to make it gold and more sort of statuesque. And then I also knew that the spray paint would react with the polystyrene. So there's a chemical reaction and it starts melting, and it becomes all slimy and sort of ugly. So I always wanted to do a performance where I would be in a massive church and then people would be standing around me and I would walk in with a white suit and spray paint the man. But there's also a lot of toxic fumes coming from the process, so I could never do it as a performance, so I decided to film that thing. So we did that with a team of people, and that was always the starting point. And there are some images of that in the film, but that's really where it all began, with a melting polystyrene sculpture. Yeah.